For the top drivers in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series, the pressure is on. With 4 races to go until the end of the regular season, multiple drivers are still looking for an opportunity to gain momentum. It was just last week in Michigan where we seen Jalen Battle's points advantage in the standings plummet from 21 to just one singular digit. Tonight, the top drivers in the series have made their way to the Bluegrass State, the always challenging Kentucky Speedway. Who will manage their tires and rocket their way to the checker flag? We're about to find out here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Chris Bobey. Behind the scenes is our director, Joe Peak. He is using cameras provided by Ducky Beer. Now, Chris, this is a unique track not only because of the difficulty of NASCAR's hardest turn 3, but because of the amount of tire fall-off we have seen historically at the circuit. With this draft package included, what can you tell us about Kentucky tonight, Chris?
Well, Justin, when you look at this track from a bird's eye view, it looks like just another cookie-cutter tri-oval that we see so many of in the stock car racing world. Well, this track has a lot more depth to it than you would expect. As you mentioned, one of the most challenging turn 3s in motorsports with the flat entry and then the banking picking up. This track is bumpy. It's rough. It's going to take out those tires really quick. And to get a feel for how this track is supposed to be handled, we're going to throw things down to our virtual lap guide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek, taking you for a spin around Kentucky Motor Speedway in the GSRC Chevrolet SS. Kentucky is an old, worn-out, bumpy track that is sure to leave these drivers worn out at the end of the race. So without further ado, let's just show you just how bumpy this place is. You can see just going down the front stretch, it kind of feels like you're in a cement mixer of some variety. But into turns 1 and 2, you want to ride this middle seam right here. If you go too low down there towards the yellow line, the car will step out on you in a heartbeat and not even think twice about it to regret it. Turn 3, use the started safer barrier as your braking point. Same situation here in 3 and 4. Run that middle groove, don't run all the way to the bottom, swinging it nice and high and wide off of the corner. Back down the very bumpy front straightaway that it leaves your arms worn out from fighting with it. As the race progresses, you may see guys venture up here into this groove because it lets you get a good hole shot down the back stretch. But if you get in it too quick, just like me right there, you get a little close to the fence coming off the corner. So it's something worth watching. Turns 3 and 4, not a whole lot of upper groove. You might see guys straddle that second seam up there, but for the most part, bottom, yeah, you can just watch this car get loose. Back down the very bumpy front stretch, and that will complete your guide around the Kentucky Motor Speedway. With its old worn-out surface, it's actually getting replaced in real life, but not in the iRacing world. So, sure to leave these drivers worn out after fighting with these machines, especially with a newer, lower downforce package in these vehicles. So, this has been your guide around Kentucky Motor Speedway. I'm Brian Yazek.
And that was your GSRC lap guide with a look around the great Kentucky Speedway. And of course, we talked about in the intro the tightness in the championship. Let's take a look at the point standings right now entering today. As Jalen Battle was mentioned, just a 1-point advantage now in the standings. He had a 21-point lead heading into Michigan. After penalties were factored in, etc., Lane has closed the gap to just 1. Stefan O'Hare is in 3rd spot now, 20 points back with Rachel Hunt. And Scott Ricard rounding out the top 5. Blake Trawick sits in 6th spot, 37 points behind, with Jody Banfield in a good position for the postseason. Lee Banks, Jared Young, and William Kruzko round out the top 10. The drivers just outside that top 10 range to keep an eye on for the postseason to see if they make it in after the 10 races of the regular season. Jared Mogard, who has showed a lot of good speed at Michigan, is 11th in the standings now, 5 points back of the top 10, with Danny Banfield in 12th position entering today's race. Today's going to see 126 total laps today, 189 miles. But let's quickly, Chris, look over the series details, my friend.
Yep, this is round 7 of the series. We'll have a reset for the playoffs around after the 10th race. These are the Cup cars with a fixed setup. They're 75% restricted fuel, which is going to play even more havoc with the strategy on a track that wears out tires. Lots of bonus points on the board. Halfway mark, the top 10 will score some points. The winner gets 3 bonus points, 1 point for a lap led, and then another point for the most laps led. So those bonus points will have these drivers on their toes throughout this event.
And I think it's going to be an interesting event. You see a lot of the drivers practicing at the moment, and here on different cycles of tires are trying to find ways to pass. As talked about, this is a track with a lot of tire wear that can factor in. The most, really, in my opinion, all the mile and a halves with the 2019 draft package in the Cup cars. How difficult do you think it will be for some of these drivers is to try and make sure they don't push too hard, too early, and then fall back to the end of the grid?
Well, I was playing around with this track a little bit before we got on the air tonight, Justin, and I can tell you this is not an easy track to drive, let alone one where you're trying to hold back. It's going to be one where we're probably going to see the tires fall off the cliff for a lot of these drivers if they're not extra careful. And I think once we see the guys towards the front in the early running, we may see them fade towards the back if the cautions don't fall the right way.
And it's historically a track you mentioned with the fall-off, too, that we see somewhere around 2 to 3 seconds at Kentucky, regardless of the setup, essentially, inside the cars. As you follow along with Tyler Fody, currently third on the practice board, approaching 250 to go in the session before they go to qualifying. Todd Slauson is on the provisional top spot of practice. Adam Sweet second. Robert Dykamper rounding out the top 5 is Jalen Battle. So drivers showing some good speed here in the 32s. But again, it's a package that is known to need to keep momentum essentially here, which can add a lot of that difficulty here. And we've seen that happen a lot where in real life and too in the summertime, Chris, drivers were able to spread themselves out a lot during green flag runs.
Yeah, this is definitely a track that could lend itself to that happening. There's different grooves you can run and a lot of different approaches to the quick way around Kentucky Speedway. So we're going to see a lot of differing strategies, and if somebody hits it on the mark, we could see them run away into the distance.
Who do you have an eye on for this race tonight to try and be that said driver?
Well, we have a lot of our usual suspects in this series. I think Tyler Fody, this is a track that kind of lends itself to his driving style. He's one that can get up front and take off. I think we have Todd Slauson looking for a breakout race. He's had in seasons past, I should say, he's had some tough luck, but he's always been a consistent finisher. And we have a lot of other names that are a little bit newer to the series that could surprise us here today as well.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers you have to definitely keep an eye on today with how the racing has been too. We haven't had a repeat winner yet so far in the season. 6 events, 6 different winners in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series. We have also seen different pole sitters for each and every event. So essentially, a lot of drivers are also still looking for consistency overall because on top of that, Chris, just 2 drivers have finished inside the top 10 more than 3 times.
Well, I think the point standings also kind of lend themselves to that as well. I mean, if you look, we had a huge 20 or 19 point swing up front that has the lead position in major threat. So this is a series where there's a lot of parity and anyone could win at any given time.
We're looking at drivers like Evan Rice, for example, in the National Guard 88 machine, currently at the bottom of the practice board. But again, just getting somebody draft off now in Alexander Cognac to watch along. One thing to note is the weather for tonight's race. It is a late evening start. In fact, it's just about 8 p.m. in sim time at the moment. Air temp is 82 degrees. Track temp just 88 at the moment Fahrenheit, with winds currently blowing their way over the grandstands in towards turn number 2, essentially. With some high humidity. So as this event goes on and as these drivers prepare for qualifying, that temp is going to drop down as this event goes on as we race under the lights by the end of this thing.
That's right. With the track cooling off, we can also see the speeds possibly pick up, so that may play a role as well.
Qualifying about to get underway. Again, single car qualifying as we've seen so far with this package. The second lap has been the most important one so far, but I'm curious to see today how that will factor in again with the tire wear. These drivers at this circuit can get tight by the second run with the amount of momentum and speed they have to carry. Danny Banfield, one of the first drivers, in fact the first driver to come out of the pit lane to record a time. Track temp has also dropped 2 degrees.
Do they have a Hardee's over near you, Justin?
Actually, no. Oh, that's actually an interesting question. For context sake, fans at home, I'm around from Canada, just across from Detroit. But no Hardee's here. Any in Michigan near you?
Well, there used to be one back in the town I went to college in, and let me tell you, when you're trying to recover from one of those college nights where you're quote-unquote studying, one of those milkshakes from Hardee's really hits the spot.
Have to agree on the milkshake part, even though I've never had a Hardee's one. But one of the main things to watch for Danny Banfield tonight, again, 12th in the standings, just one top 10, and is set to record the first qualifying time of the session, 30.551 as he prepares for the second lap. But keep an eye here on the line. You can see he's trying to dive it on down, try and arc it in towards that yellow line. That time it looked like he got a bit tight.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough way to run the track, I think, when you try to use the banking to help build the momentum coming down the hill. You do really run the risk of everything tightening up once you get to the apex of the corner.
But it's also, if you do it right, the fastest way around. This time, you see only about maybe a couple 100ths quicker. 30.540 rather. Currently puts him on top of the board. Jack Wells and Stefan O'Hare have also put in qualifying times. Rachel Hunt has just jumped to the top of the board on her first qualifying lap, meanwhile on the 61 machine. Remember, Chris, Rachel, having had a strong run at Michigan, was amongst the drivers in that lead group before some of the incident.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that were in that top group at Michigan last week that unfortunately didn't see the finish that they may have deserved.
One of the drivers that had a very chaotic race around them, again, was Jose Arbos, who was involved in a couple different incidents in the 28 machine. As you look back to Rachel Hunt, on top of the board, she goes with a 32.24. That is just on top of Jose Arbos by a couple 100ths. O'Hare, Danny Banfield, Logan Brakey currently round out the top 5. Change that, though, as Evan Rice just put in a 33.88 for the top 5 of the board.
Yeah, it looks like 10 or 11 drivers now have recorded a time, with Hunt still at the top with a 32.24. It looks like Roland Dykemper hopping up there in the third spot with a 32.99.
Currently, everybody trying to record their times. Again, about 90 seconds to go on the clock. As you look at your points leader, Jalen Battle looking to try and get good track position. Battle right now up inside the top 10. Currently provisionally P6. Make it P7 as Blevins comes across the stripe. And Battle, of course, had a rough race at Michigan. Finished all the way in the rear half of the grid. That lost him that 20-plus point advantage in the standings.
Yeah, he was another one of the drivers, really, that at one point was having a pretty solid run, but just an event-filled race that took out a lot of our top contenders, and unfortunately, Jalen Battle suffered the effects of that and gave up quite a bit in the point standings. But thankfully, with the playoffs set up, it's not going to hurt him as bad as it would have if we had a normal season-long points chase.
And that leads to a good point as well as we look at Todd Slauson, who's up to provisionally second spot on the qualifying grid. Again, just 4 races left in the regular season. As you look at Slauson around the racetrack, again, Slauson trying to gain momentum to try and break into the postseason. Not a lot of time for some of these drivers, if they started with an early hole, to claw their way back in, even with the different winners and consistency we've seen from some of the drivers.
Yeah, Justin, another thing with this series that has kind of carried over from the last season we did in the Trucks Forum, it seems to be kind of a late arriving crowd as far as drivers go. You know, you have your group of people that will hop into the series a little bit later into the season and then try to get into the playoffs here in the home stretch.
And with that, we'll hop over to the starting grid because the final drivers have put in qualifying times. And in the death of the session, it is Adam Sweet who takes the pole with a 32 flat. Just in front of Tyler Fode by 5/1000ths of a second in qualifying. Rachel Hunt starts on the inside of row 2 with Todd Slauson in the Tide Machine starting in 4th. William Cruzco will start in 5th in the Sim Racers for Mental Health number 6, with Jose Arbos looking to have a decent run today in 6th. Josh Walker in the 01 will start in 7th, with Robert Dykemper in 8th spot. Jared Young and Corey Blevins round out the top 10 starting positions, about a 1/10 of a second difference for the pole.
As we head outside of the top 10, Blake Trawick in the 56 will start 11th, followed by your points leader Jalen Battle in 12th. Jody Banfield comes home lucky number 13 on the grid, followed by Evan Rice in the 88. Robert Kenny will start 15th on the grid with Stephen O'Hare to his outside. Then the number 43, Tony Edmondson, will start 17th, followed by Danny Banfield in 18th. The final row of your top 20, you'll see Logan Brady and Jack Wells, hashtag Taco Soup, completing the top 20.
Brendan Jackson 21st with Alexander Cognac on the outside of the row in 22nd. 23rd, Ty Marasco with Jeremy McClintock in 24th. The last driver recorded time. The driver actually spun in his qualifying attempt in the 30 machine was Brad A. Cross, finished 5.5 seconds rather off the rest of the drivers who recorded times. The rest of the grid, Scott Ricard all the way back in 26th, Matthew Rodriguez, Rob Peterson rounded the drivers. Peterson still looking to get to his race car. Drivers who have gone into the longest line penalties of note, Danny Banfield, Brendan Jackson, Matthew Rodriguez amongst the drivers who will start at the rear of the grid as they start rolling their way off the pit lane. But again, with Kentucky, a unique racetrack. Right now, we're running the pre-scan version of pre-repave version of the racetrack. So the banking around 17 degrees in turns 1 and 2, as mentioned, a bit flatter in 3 and 4, about 14 degrees. Tri-oval 8 to 10 degrees, with the straightaways down the back just 4 degrees. The drivers currently getting ready to go for what should be an eventful race here in Kentucky. Your expectations here tonight, Chris?
Well, as you mentioned, this is the pre-updated version of Kentucky, which in my opinion is best Kentucky. I'm looking forward to a great race with a lot of different strategies, and I think the tire wear will help make for a very fun and exciting event. We have a very talented front row getting things started, and there's a lot of great drivers breathing right down their neck as we come down to the start.
It is Adam Sweet's first pole of 2019/Season 2. As Sweet hits the gas, we're underway for Kentucky.
What a great start by Adam Sweet, jumping out to a 2 or 3 car length lead as they head off into turn number 1.
Here's the thing though, again, with this package, the drivers reel themselves back up towards the lead car. Tyler Fode looking to dive his way to the inside of turn 3, side by side in his Ford Fusion, or Mustang rather. As they're side by side, who will get the first lap of the day in the 40 machine? It's going to be Tyler Fode who does it, in fact, in that number.
Yeah, very, very close first lap. Tyler Fode, the first one to get the bonus point. But Adam Sweet not going to let him get too far away as he hangs on to that outside groove. Looks like possibly going for a little bit of a side draft because ahead in turn number 3. And here comes Todd Slauson in the 77 to the bottom of the track.
Fode clears on by Sweet this time at a turn 4. So he's now got control of whatever line he wants to do, but Slauson still looking to fight. Meanwhile, behind them, Rachel Hunt just dived her way up into 4th spot. They continue to shuffle in the top spot. Slauson, the fastest car last time by, while Fode rides up the racetrack and lets Sweet on by.
Yeah, it looks like Sweet got into the left rear of the 40 car, sent him up the track, and Adam Sweet was on his way as now Fode has to fend off a charge from Todd Slauson. And here comes Rachel Hunt to get into that battle as well.
Rachel Hunt dives her way down to the apron, trying to find some speed. Can be as much of a 1/10 of a second difference into the entry of turn 1. But again, we'll have to deal with the driver on top with the ability to essentially pinch down. Slauson doesn't take that opportunity, staying side by side with Hunt, but carrying the momentum off those down to the backstretch into turn 3. This is something to watch for again today, I think, here, Chris, is how drivers handle the early portions of these runs. The cars can get spread out here a lot more than a lot of the other mile-and-a-half circuits with this package, and you can already see some of the gaps starting to form up.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty common at a track like this, the way things are set up. But again, you gotta wonder, are the people that are driving away, are they using up their stuff? And are the people that are hanging back possibly saving something for later on in the run?
That was just about to get to my next point, in fact. A lot of battling amongst these drivers. The top 5 rather, back to single file for the time being as Slauson tries to find a way to reel in second. As behind them, they are still fighting side by side for P7. Jose Arbo's forced on the bottom side as drivers try and drive around him on the top. Camper leads a freight train. In the early run, the top line, the preferred groove on corner exit, it seems. And caution flag is out. It's down into turn number 3. The driver in 14th place, Blake Traywick in the Moon Machine, has had his 56 car destroyed. Caution flag is out on the Speedway, Chris.
Well, you had to believe that caution may be coming here in the early running with these drivers trying to dig for every little position they can find. And looks like the 56 car got up into the wall, maybe overcorrected as he bounced off, and around he went.
Yeah, and you see that on the Global SimRacing Channel replay there again, was in 14th spot. And I can't tell if that was technical error for something down the straight or hitting one of the bumps that maybe shot him towards the right where he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, this track is not the easiest one to keep the car pointed the way you want it going. There's a lot of bumping around the track, or a lot of bumps around the track, I should say. And that's going to upset the car, and if you're not expecting it, it can shove you into the wall like we saw.
Drivers taking their time in towards the lane, and this is going to be interesting. To be expected, I think most of the field will likely take 4 tires of fuel here, Chris, because the tire fall off here is major. If you take 2 tires, it can gain you a lot of track position. Some drivers say in the mile-and-a-half it helps with their stability, but it's a bit iffy at Kentucky. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I gotta believe here we're gonna see just about every caution people come down and take 4 tires. I can't imagine on a track like this where tire wear is such a huge issue that we would see people even try the strategy play as far as that goes.
Race off pit road as you see the drivers cross the stripe and sort themselves out. Keep an eye on the pylon as the driver that came out first was Slauson. And the second driver also with them in that group, though that's the 06 of Jack Wells. And based on the position compared to everyone else, it looks like they may have stayed out here, Chris. Or am I seeing this wrong?
That's kind of what it looks like to me. Jack Wells was a pretty noteworthy competitor in the last iteration of this series in the trucks, because he carried the hashtag taco soup on the tailgate of his truck as he now pulls back on the pit road.
I wonder if Slauson, the 06 machine rather, of Wells, was maybe trying to get a bonus point again for leading a lap there by staying out and then coming down the lane on the second time. But it looks like that strategy was foiled there by Slauson now being the lead car and staying in front of him. So Slauson is your race leader after the cycle of pit stops. Again, caution flag coming out on lap 7 of 126. It's going to be a multi-stopper to say the very least here tonight. On a normal fuel load, fuel runs would be about up to 55-ish laps. Most of the tank they have tonight, though, is 14 gallons here. So that's going to factor in a potential extra stop or two here, Chris, for this one.
Yeah, in an ideal world, we'd see a couple long green flag runs to kind of test the strategy of these drivers. But I think if the current pace keeps up, we're going to see a lot of pit stops for tires and a lot of people fueling up. So hoping to see some green flag runs here to get the brains working on these drivers.
Drivers getting all set to go for the restart. Lights are out on top of the iRacing pace car. As the Ford Mustang drops its way down the pit lane, Todd Slauson in control of the field. Green flags back up. We're racing once more from the Bluegrass State. And a beautiful jump for the Tide machine heading into turn 1. Everybody else stuck amongst battles about second on back.
Trying to think of some kind of laundry-based pun for the Tide car leading, and I'm striking out.
The question is, though, how long can Slauson stay up in front? As Slauson has Fody say hello to the back end. May have touched him a touch, in fact, as he tries to dive his way for the lead lap. That time by, though, it goes to Slauson side by side for the race lead. Fody charges its way into turn 1, retakes the race lead as Slauson dropping like a rock very quickly here.
Yeah, it looks like Slauson's run is going to be stained here as he drops through the back of the field, and I just nailed that Tide pun.
And it's going to be a tougher stain that time, making contact with Jared Young as he tried to clear on by. Both drivers seem to be okay, no damage on the Ford Mustang of Young, but that lost Slauson even more momentum down the front stretch as he lets drivers by on the bottom side. They stay side by side for third on back, meanwhile, as you see that battle unfolding up on your screen.
Yeah, 77 of Slauson getting tossed around like he may be a little bit off balanced or something.
And again, if he didn't pit, it's not going to help him on this run. The tires, they make a difference. We've seen that in real life at Kentucky. The drivers that took 4 tires in that throwing battle, such as Kurt Busch, ended up giving him enough grip and speed to keep up with the 2 tires, remember, that were taken by Kyle Busch before that throwing green-white checkered finish to finish what was one of the best finishes in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series this season. So tires are extremely important at Kentucky.
Yeah, Slauson's now fallen outside of the top 10, so whatever type of play he was going for, it did not work.
Slauson dropping all the way back. Adam Sweet is up to second, meanwhile, third. If you now look at Josh Walker, now he's stuck on the bottom side, though, as the Band-Aid machine looks to find a way to Band-Aid the lost positions, was up to 5th this last time by, able to find a gap in front of Corey Blevins, so the top 7 single file. But all of that with Slauson has allowed Fody to already get a 0.6 of a second advantage over Rachel Hunt through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, right now it looks like that 01 of Josh Walker has the 24 of Corey Blevins stuck to his back bumper as they race into turn 3.
Yeah, you can see that battle again up on your screen as Young tries to go up the racetrack, carrying a little bit more speed on the corner exit, able to ramp it down the banking of turn 4, though, back in front of Dicamper. Dicamper, though, forced to the bottom side. Walker, though, not able to outlift himself, essentially, to keep that outside line. Again, we've been seeing so far in a lot of the Kentucky races, in fact, when you think back on this iRacing service, on the restarts here, the top line is the preferred line. That line, though, is going to change as the race goes on, though, with the dynamic track conditions in iRacing.
Yeah, I'm really entertained as this run goes on, watching these drivers kind of work their way more and more up the track. Right now, you can see the 37 of Dicamper going up a couple grooves from where he was just the lap before to try to keep the momentum up. And, you know, another thing we haven't really touched on yet, Justin, how much time you actually spend on the throttle on this track. It's kind of a momentum track the way you race it. I think you just maybe tap the brakes a little bit, but for the most part, you're spending a lot of time in the gas and a lot of time trying to keep the revs up.
I mean, with this package, you technically don't even need to hit the brakes on the short run, maybe not until the mid-run even, as Dicamper actually forces Young to the bottom side of turn 2, able to start a freight train right on by the 10 machine. So 2 spots lost for the Arda Ford Mustang as he tries to fight back on the Band-Aid car. But to get back to my point there, Chris, and the point I think you were making there a little bit too with the momentum, the drivers who are able to hold in the throttle the most with this package are going to be the fastest if they can do it on the long run. That's the main key, because if you just fully flat out mash the gas, you're either going to push tight or you're going to fall backwards like we've seen with Slauson, or nearly push drivers into the fence like that where Jan nearly hit Blevins up to the fence.
Yeah, exactly. The cars are all going to drive relatively good when you have 4 fresh tires on there. It's going to be when we get to the point where the fall off is really starting to hit, when we're going to see who really has a good handling car.
106 laps to go this time by. Just 20 laps completed so far of 126. As that time some near contact, Young gets a little bit bobbly. Does have some slight right side damage. Not a lot of aerodynamics though, but look who's charging behind him. It's the Black 46 machine of Jalen Battle in the Suicide Awareness for Everyone machine. As a car gets loose behind him. Brad Cross gets loose off of turn 2. Spins around. Caution flag comes out. Second time we see the caution flag today. And Robert F. Kenny just barely got a tap in that as well.
Yeah, I thought Brad Cross might possibly have it saved. He had the rear end of that car sliding up from underneath him for what seemed like about a half lap before it actually went around. But he was definitely wheeling that car up until the point where he wasn't.
Remember, he got very loose in qualifying to start off the day. That time, though, got a little bit of help from Arvo.
Yeah, I thought Brad had it, but unfortunately Cross got crossed up as he went around and tagged the inside wall.
And you've seen there the left front nose tag for Robert F. Kenny as well. As you'll take a look on board here, I thought he actually was about to miss this somehow in the Sim Speed Shops machine, but barely taps the left rear as the 30 smacks the wall. So we are under the caution flag for the second time tonight. Blake Trawick waved around the pace car as Kenny stays out to get a bonus point. Everybody else ducking down to the lane this time.
You know, one other advantage that staying out that extra lap to gain the bonus point will give you, not to mention the limited fuel that these drivers are allowed to take on. So one extra lap on the track before your pit stop is a little less distance you have to go on that fuel tank.
And it's going to be interesting to see how this rest of the race goes, but we have a new race leader as Ty Marasco. It comes out first in the 16 machine. And this is interesting. I think he actually missed his box. He backed up and essentially only stayed inside his stall for a second to take the race lead for the time being. So now it comes to the question, Chris, does he actually keep this track position? Because we've seen how many spots Slauson lost. In fact, Slauson dropped all the way after the pit stops here to 19.
Well, you see that kind of drop off, but Ty Marasco going into the pit stop was around 23rd on the grid, I believe, or 23rd on the track, I should say. So this could possibly work out. I mean, Slauson lost a lot of spots, but he also was a lot further ahead at the time of caution. So we could see him stay out, and if he drops back to, say, 19th, like we saw Slauson, that's actually probably a net gain of, what, 4 or 5 spots?
Potentially, but again, it was all triggered really by Marasco running old. Basically, he missed his pit box. That was the main thing here. So I think he just said, you know what? Do what he said. The thing is, though, too, if you look at the front nose of that machine, it does have some damage, so that's also going to potentially affect Marasco if he decides to stay out. He did get the lead lap that time by.
Well, if he does plan on staying out, this may be an opportunity to try to make some chicken salad out of this one. But there's a lot of question marks over now the condition of his car and whether or not he's actually going to risk it. I mean, this is definitely going to be a bold move if he sticks with it. But at this point, what does he have to lose?
I think that's actually a great point. If he elects to stay out, is he going to? As the Ford Mustang dives its way to the pit lane, he says, no, I'm not going to risk it. He's going to dive down and give Tyler Fode back the lead, so it looks like just stayed out there after missing the box to get the bonus point. So that 16 machine gains an extra point to his tally, as Tyler Fode retakes the race lead under caution here in the number 40 machine coming to lap 26 next time by. So Fode looking to try and have a strong run tonight. He's been one of the stronger cars tonight and has already gotten a win this season, should note. Again, we have not seen a single repeat winner so far in 6 events.
Well, Fode's consistently been one of the faster drivers this season, so not surprised at all to see him up there, but we'll see if the luck plays out in his favor this time. It has not always been that way for some of the top runners, but so far it's been pretty clean sailing for the drivers up front in this event.
And not only that, I'm looking at the standings here. He is about 70 points actually back from the points leader. He is in 16th entry tonight. After Michigan, he dropped 2 spots. So this is a huge race for him to try and make the postseason for Season 2.
Yeah, Tyler played the role of spoiler last season when they were racing the trucks. He was not in the playoffs, but was consistently one of the upfront battlers. And now as the pace car pulls off, we'll see what Tyler Fode can.
Tyler Fode's led the majority of the laps so far tonight, as the Ford EcoBoost Boost Ford Mustang hits the gas. We're racing once again from Kentucky. And that time, a lot more stacked up were some of the drivers inside the top 10. A lot of 2 and 3 wide already in the turn 1 and 2.
You know, one thing we don't really get to see on iRacing as much as I would like is these drivers playing more strategy on the restarts. I'd love to see the lead car just creep along and fire off on a restart and catch everybody napping.
4 wide, meanwhile, towards the edge of the top 10. It's going to get even more dicey. Camper trying to let cars go. One car gets into the left rear. Jody Banfield hits one of the cars, and Brandon Jackson checks up everyone 9th on back. As that's going to slow up the second pack that's now just formed. Near disaster for Jody Banfield there.
Yeah, that race towards the back of the top 10 just took off. We had drivers dropping, drivers driving forward, and it's still chaos back there.
The thing is, with this package, we talked about this a bit at Michigan. The best chance to get spots is right now off the restarts. A lot of dicing going on. Rachel Hunt finding her way to the top side of Corey Blevins. Josh Walker also follows through as that shuffles Blevins down to 5th spot on the racetrack. As all this battling has gone on, Fode and Sweet have essentially pulled away from all the shuffling. 6 to 7 tenths for Fode is the lead. Already a couple laps into the run, Sweet 3 tenths in front of the rest of the group.
Yeah, these early runs have been very much favoring Tyler Fode in the 40 car, as he has jumped out to, it's got to be close to a second lead as they get back to the line, and now Rachel Hunt seems to be closing the gap on 2nd spot.
And the clean air definitely has to help for Fode. It was talked about by some of the drivers in the Peak Series for their last race. In fact, it's been talked about a lot all throughout 2019 with the package. So if you're the lead car, it's very helpful. He was actually the fastest car Fode was last time by, while Hunt was amongst the 2nd fastest, a 33.71 last time by for Rachel, as she tries to reel in Adam Sweet again.
Yeah, it's amazing how much turbulent air these cars can find behind them. You know, when you have the lead car out there in the clean air, he's able to drive away, but the air gets very dirty the further back.
Hunt amongst the drivers inside the top 10 as well, though. As Sweet's actually starting to fall off the touch, dropped to the 34s last time by. Rachel also followed suit. in that time code as they stay single file now amongst the drivers in the top 10. Should note they are going 2-3 wide still in the back of the pack, about 17th on back. We'll keep the eyes for now on P2. The gap is under 0.3 of a second for the spot, as Hunt is getting faster and faster. She is within the draft, it looks like, of Sweet. But again, the main issue, though, is the aero push with that turbulent area you talked about there. While you are going to be able to be faster on the straights, it's pushing Hunt up the track in the corners.
And not to mention, you may be able to get to that car in front of you, but you also have to try to pass them. And that's something that's been shown to not always be the easiest unless you have a pretty good run going.
And that time, Hunt's going to get a good run off of 2 as Sweet pushed up the racetrack. That closes the gap from 4 car lengths down to just 1. So mistakes like that will also help out, I think, Hunt here. Sweet, a bit better in 3 and 4 right now than Hunt. But Hunt, I think, is actually better in 1 and 2. So it's going to be curious to see how this battle shapes up.
Yeah, and when you really think about the way this track's laid out, 1 and 2 is where you put down the power, but I think 3 and 4 is where you have to finesse the track a little bit more with how odd the entry on turn 3 is.
Yeah, you can see the different lines a little bit here. You can see drivers not even getting below the first seam for the most part in 1 and 2. Drivers trying to get towards the yellow line in some cases in 3 and 4. Others prefer that line above the first seam. There is the differences in the handling. It can be a bit of a driver's track though, and a bit of a preference track essentially, because as you mentioned in the pre-race, the different lines can work. It's just a matter of, can you make it work while also being able to manage the tires?
And it looks like the AD of Adam Sweet is really struggling with getting the car to go where he wants in 1 and 2. I noticed that last time by, it looked like he was trying to maybe drive it in a little bit deeper than it would go, but it seemed to be fighting him to get back towards the bottom of the track.
Yeah, you see that perfectly there. Hunt getting to the bottom side. Well, Sweet nearly scraped the wall that time by, it looks like, off of turn 2. So you're right, Sweet is looking very tight. As Sweet is currently trying to wield that machine very hard, it looks like. Had to get out of the gas, in fact, off of turn 4. Hunt tries to take advantage, trying to peek to the outside. Sweet tries to defend the apron. Side by side heading into turn 1. But Sweet able to dive his way to the bottom of the groove. Forces Hunt to lift the gas. But Sweet, too much power, allows the crossover back.
Now Hunt to the inside, and this has been the part of the track where Sweet typically has had the advantage, but it looks like Hunt, I thought she had the preferred line, but now as they swing out past turn 4, the momentum on the outside able to keep Sweet ahead.
The question is, can Sweet carry the momentum on the top side in 1 and 2? Hunt's now got the bottom on the entry apex. Sweet's nearly tapped the wall a couple times in this corner, sawing at the wheel. This time able to have the better run of the two drivers. But their pace has now fallen 0.3 of a second off of Tower 40 in that clean air, by the way. And this has also allowed a couple other drivers to sneak into the battle. Josh Walker is also entered this conversation. It's now a 3-car battle for second.
Yeah, when your focus is on the drivers behind you, you're definitely not going to be running down the driver ahead of you. And there's also the simple fact that 2 cars battling are going to be a lot slower than 1 car driving off on his own. As Hunt once again gets a good run off the corner, she's going to look to the inside as they head towards turn 3, and looks like Sweet's still able to get by.
Hunt living up to her namesake, trying to hunt for second spot. That time Sweet able to carry a bit more momentum, but again Hunt with the draft behind. Can her Toyota Camry find a way to the bottom? No, checks up once more. Should note, Hunt, at least from what I've seen from her race statistic-wise and her driving style-wise, Kentucky is in her wheelhouse in the 61 machine. She actually came away with a very strong win in the NIS fix, which is essentially the half-distance to full-distance races on the iRacing service. This is one of her best tracks, in my opinion, on this entire service.
Well, I think she's definitely showing it. She's running a really good line through 1 and 2. And I think Sweet does have the advantage in 3 and 4, but that's not to say that she's lacking in any sense of the word.
Absolutely, and mind you, this is the longest green flag run of the day so far. Our first 2 runs were about 10 laps apiece. So far, we've ran green for nearly 20 laps now. And this has allowed, essentially, Fody to pull away by almost 2 seconds at the head of the field. And still, Hunt yet to find a way around Sweet as they continue to lose time. Tyler Fody just now, in fact, evened up time to the rest of the pack. That's how strong the short run was for him to the mid-run.
Yeah, Tyler Fody had fired off very well from the last couple restarts we've had, and he's had clean sailing for the majority of this run. So I'll be interested to see how his pace maintains through the duration of this.
Yeah, especially since he's got himself nearly 2 seconds, yes, but again, the times are starting to fall off a bit. So it's going to be the question, can Tyra keep it up to try and grow this gap again? With the shorter field, the window going to be a bit more smaller. So we'll have to see when the drivers start to duck in. Estimations maybe around lap 45-ish at the minimum, give or take. But at the moment, drivers such as Blevins still having to defend. Jalen Battle has been trying to go back and forth for P7 for a couple laps now. This time dives to the inside line in his Chevrolet Camaro. Can't slide up though, as Blevins again takes the high side as Rice tries to follow suit.
Jalen battling his way up, trying to grow his points lead back to what it was, as he has just about a nose advantage and now gives it up to Blevins as they head back down towards the line. Blevins still holding on to that 7th spot, and looks like we have another car in the mix there as well. That's the 88 of Evan Rice.
And I think Rice is actually in a great spot here because you'll see it right here. Blevins gets the run on the top side, opens up the door for Rice to try and follow suit. So Blevins able to clear now by about a full car length off of turn 4 from the 46th of Battle. And Rice also going to now be able to take advantage. And this brings up a good point now too. We've mentioned the difficulty to pass. It's important to try and time them up to the right spots, because if you do it at the wrong moment or can't get the job done, what just happened to Battle could happen to you.
Exactly. I know making that move at the precise moment is a very big part of racing this track, and Rice must have felt like he was in the pressure cooker trying to get that move to pop off at the right time, but he was able to successfully make it and now has himself in a nice fluffy position number 8.
Actually, that's number 7. Rice is up to P8. The Battle's down to 9th, +3 from the start of the grid. Jody Banfield currently rounds out the top 10 at the moment. So drivers currently working their way just past 80 laps to go, 79 this time by, as we also look towards William Kruska also trying to move up to the field. This is for P12 at the moment, where Kruska looking to gain some crucial points in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Machine. Able to get the momentum that time to hold on to the spot from Danny Banfield. Well, they're also battling in front, so Kruska has a couple chances to not just defend, but to gain spots if the Slauson-Jody Banfield battle keeps up as that shuts.
Yeah, and it looks like a pretty solid recovery so far from Todd Slauson after he ended up staying out on that first caution, dropped quite a bit, and has recovered to be not too far outside of the top 10. Bill Kruska, another driver that kind of faded after the initial starting spot of 5th. So, but he's hanging in there, and we're seeing a lot of these drivers that fell off towards the start work their way back up as this run goes on.
And mind you, Slauson, second to last in the drivers who have made every single start this season. Not a statistic you want to have. That puts him in P20. And now the caution flag is out down the backstretch, 21st. That is Ty Marasco. So he's now had more trouble in the 16 machine. 3rd caution of the day.
Well, tough break for Marasco, who was kind of put back in that position as a result of a botched pit stop. As you see, he goes around.
look on board here again on the Vaseline paint scheme, and you'll see again, if you burn up your equipment and or carry too much momentum, you'll hit the wall like that time, smacking it hard on the right side, Chris.
Yeah, once those tires wear out, the car's not going to grip as well as you think, and even from one lap to the next, it's not always a gradual fall off the cliff. So you might be able to think that you can stick the car in the same spot on the track you did the lap before, but that is not always the case, as we just saw there.
Everyone ducking their way down the pit lane once again. Again, third caution flag of the day. And we'll have 75 to go this next time by. Everyone stopping into their stalls. Jarrett Young did stay out to try and gain a point. Well, Edmondson is the first driver that was a lap down to get the lucky dog. Let's see who wins the race off of pit road. Again, the average pit stop time for the leaders, about 14.7 tonight. First driver out is the 40 at Tyler Fody, but look who jumps to second. Rachel Hunt takes advantage of massive tire spin from Adam Sweet.
Well, that's one spot on the track where it is pretty easy to make a pass, especially if you have an error in your pit stop, like the exit there that Sweet had.
Top 5 out of the pit lane: Fody, Hunt, Sweet, Walker, and Jackson. And again, waved around the pace car was Blake Treywick. With that, we'll take a quick break. You're watching the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series, live from the virtual Kentucky Speedway. From beautiful Sparta, Kentucky. We'll be back with more coverage after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Kentucky Speedway for more coverage of the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series, for round number 7 of what has been an exciting second season overall for the organization. Tyler Fody's in the lead, choosing the outside line for this upcoming restart, and we'll start alongside Rachel Hunt. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the move tonight is Chris Foby, and what has been an exciting race so far. Chris, we've seen Tyler be the most dominant race car. However, I'm curious to see how the rest of this race shapes out. Still a long ways to go.
That's right, and we are just, 11 laps away from that halfway point where we're going to divvy out some of the points for this this series that has had a very close points race so far.
We'll have to see who gets those points at the halfway point as the pace car ducks off the racetrack. Again, Fody in control of the field, choosing the outside line. Green flags up in the air. We're racing once again from Kentucky. And this time, Rachel Hunt not getting a good start on the bottom side. Josh Walker jumps up to second. Well, they go near 4 wide behind, make it 3 wide for third spot. Jackson trying to hold on to the bottom line. Sweet tries to arc it from the top as Hunt stays in the middle, nearly taps the Chevrolet up on top.
I was just thinking that if there was a place to go 3 wide on this track, probably make it the most difficult corner.
Especially on these starts. And that was one of the best opportunities up towards the front for some of the drivers to move on through. Again, the benefactor of the slow start at the bottom was Walker. They're still side by side for third on back. Robert Dykemper also trying to fall on through behind Sweet's tire tracks as he tries to fall behind the Final Fantasy machine.
That's right, Josh Walker really stuck it to him on that restart, was able to jump up to second. This is the best position he's been in all evening, and he's looking to capitalize to possibly get up there and battle with 40 car Fody.
Fastest lap of the race again for Fody by the way, with a 31.35. You see in the right upper corner of your screen. That's a 10th quicker than anybody else in the field. Make it 2 tenths quicker so far. We still haven't even seen the track temp drop down yet, so those speeds are going to go higher and higher as they now have gone single file majority of the top 10.
Yeah, surprisingly, I just took a peek at our track temperature. It really has not fallen off as much as you would expect as we march towards the evening time. Still 85 on the track, just about 3 degrees lower than what we saw in qualifying earlier. So the track temperature is staying pretty consistent, even if the air temperature is still falling off.
You can see right now one driver able to get to the outside of another. That time it's Brendan Jackson in the Evo SimSport machine trying to make a move. As Evan Rice in the National Guard Chevrolet pitched on down, forced to let off the gas and loses a spot. And it looks like he's going to allow Battle to also try and make a move to turn a Battle. Now on for P7.
Yeah, looks like it's a hornet's nest back there from about, looks like 7th on back. We just have a slew of drivers there in the mix.
They're still side by side for 7th as Battle moves on by. Blevins also looking to follow. Slauson also looking for a chance to move on by. So Rice has to find a way to dive up to the next line. Does so as there's a car up in the fence.
That's
Sweet
Adam.
is up in the wall.
That's Adam Sweet in the wall, one of our drivers that was up in the podium positions in the early running of this event is going to see himself fall back quite a bit. So unfortunately for Adam Sweet, this race turning very bitter.
And have to take a look at this one. Did have a car underneath, and I don't even know what just happened there. Just bobbled up the racetrack in 3 off the bumps.
Yeah, we got a caution on the track live as well. Looks like the, I believe it was the 30 car went around again.
So Sweet, one of the top runners in the race tonight, having trouble. As that happened, remember Rice? He had just did a slide job on Slauson to hold on to position. And then Kruss here gets involved in his second wreck of the day. Again, it all started where Evan Rice in the 88 was. All the way, if you go back to the exit of turn 4, where Rice had pulled off the slide job on Slauson. And I don't think Slauson liked that.
Yeah, so the Tide car sends Rice for a spin cycle, and then Rice got burned.
And you can see, though, here's the thing with Payback. It can collect people that are just innocent bystanders. Collects at least 2-3 others in the aftermath. So 2 different incidents and about half a lap take place to bring the L flag back out with 65 to go. And man, oh man, that was an interesting sequence of events, all I can say.
Yeah, I'm just thankful I had one eye on the replay and just happened to catch the incident out of the corner of my eye on the live feed. And a lot going on there, Justin.
Yeah, that was intriguing. But I have to say this, though, with the race incident, as you see the drivers come down the pit lane, he needed to eventually get up towards the top side. He had lost 4 or 5 spots before cutting in front of Slauson before that incident. Again, Slauson, I think, might have had that payback potentially for that slide job.
Yeah, I mean, he did run him pretty close when he came up the track. I mean, there's no doubting that. I don't know if it necessarily called for the type of retaliation we saw, but nonetheless, it was a pretty bold move, we'll call it. You know, to kind of insert yourself in that position, but nonetheless, didn't seem to work out well for anybody in the end.
Not even for Slauson, because you just seen it there, has some right front damage. This is bunched up the field again. Jack Wells is staying out this time by to get a bonus point, it looks like, because the halfway point, we're just about reaching. In fact, right now, lap 64, 63 to go this upcoming time by. So, essentially, Wells is in a position to get the max bonus points here at this halfway point. Fody, Walker, Hunt, Jackson, Dykemper inside the top 6. Battle, Blevins, Robert Kenny, William Kruska inside the top 10.
You know, Justin, I mentioned it a couple times earlier that Jack Wells had taco soup on the back of his truck last season in this series. And we had spoken about it literally every race that we broadcast here on GSRC. We mentioned that taco soup. We had all kinds of theories about what it might mean. We get to one of the last races of the season and finally get a chance to talk to Jack after the race. And we ask him about it. And it turns out somebody he knew just made really good soup.
I thought that was going to be a little more intriguing. He does have a message on the back bumper this time. If you can see that message, it says, "Fear is a liar." As he's going to dive down to the pit lane, you're going to have to explain to me that metaphor.
Maybe he just has an ex-friend with the last name Fear, who's a no-good, dirty liar.
I'm wondering if, I'm going to be honest with the metaphor, I'm going to take it more along the lines of, fear can cause you to think wrong thoughts, essentially. It can make your mind play tricks on itself and essentially lie to itself. In other words, he's saying, I don't want to show fear, I think is potentially the message. I'm curious if, depending on how his run goes tonight, if we can find out that specific message. Again, though, we have 62 laps to go this time by, as Tyler Fody's chosen the bottom side, coming to the 1 to go signal. So he'll start alongside Josh Walker, Hunt, Jackson inside the top 4, Dykemper in battle in 5th and 6th, Blevins and Kenny up to 7th and 8th, with Kruska and Slauson rounding out the top 10 here. So again, the longest run of the day has been about 25 laps so far. We are yet to see a green flag pit stop, surprisingly, at Kentucky.
Yeah, I was really hoping we'd get to green flag pit stops at some point in this event, because I think the different interpretations on when the best time to pit could really change things up and shuffle the deck a little bit. Not that this race, at least for the midfield, hasn't been a pretty exciting and wild event. As the pace car pulls off, looks like we're going back to green, Justin.
Walker tries to catch up to Fody's front end. This time, Fody bunches up the field to the Geico restart zone. They roll through. Green flag back up in the air. And a great run for Fody as they're 3 wide for second spot. A terrible start for Walker.
And here comes Brandon Jackson shoving it up the middle. He'll now be to the outside of Rachel Hunt as they head down the back straightaway. But he has Jalen Battle glued to his back bumper, giving him a shove. And this is the closest anyone has been to Tyler Fody on a restart all race long.
Second spot, move Jackson to that position. But again, keep an eye on the points leader, Jalen Battle. Up to his highest spot on the day for Left Turn Motorsports. Battling for third spot, looking to get that spot out of turn 3 again. In a great spot because we did not see a second place competitor take part tonight. Well, he has to let Hunt on by while Dykemper gets a run on the bottom side. So Battle now all of a sudden struggling up top.
Battle and Dykemper still just about side by side as Josh Walker goes to the to draft behind the 46 of battle and give him a shove. The 61 of Hunt has been a big fan of using up the apron on the front straightaway. She now goes right back to the outside line and slowly inches her way back towards the yellow line through the corner as they come off of turn 2.
New purple lap time. You just seen Tyler Fody again topping himself. A 30 flat this time. Now 3/10 quicker than anybody else's fastest time on the night. Fody having a heck of a strong run in the clean air as we still look at Walker. Walker, though, mind you, had the worst possible start. He tried to gain some time on this man in the Ford Mustang, Tyler Fody, on the outside line. Fody timed it up perfectly, and it essentially checked everybody up on the top side to try, which essentially forced the pass up the middle from Jackson.
Yeah, Brandon Jackson was definitely the winner of that restart. And you look at Jackson, he started pretty deep in the field. He's running in his best position of the day, and he really took advantage on that restart to find the opening where the other cars were not on the track and found himself moving up into the second.
Looking at Walker again in 5th spot at the moment. Again, dropped 3 total in the span of a couple laps now behind Jalen Battle. Drivers inside the top 12 single file. The gap from 1st to 12th is just under 3 seconds. Coming to 57 laps to go this time, a majority of the drivers here. And now it gets curious here how the rest of this race plays out, Chris, because now it's going to be the question of, if we go green, what does this mean for the strategy? Because there's a chance it's a one-stopper, it looks like, from here on out.
I think if we see this go green the rest of the race, one thing I'd be really interested in seeing is somebody trying to pull an undercut on the 40 car. I think that'd definitely be a way to get ahead in the short term, and especially if the tires start falling off, you can get onto the track a little earlier on the fresh tires and really put in some quick lap times. But on the flip side of that...
Oh, trouble! One car up in the wall. McClintock door checked. Was 3 wide, battling for position with the 43 machine, and McClintock is now destroyed in the Coors Light Toyota Camry. This was in turn 1 on the entry. They were 2-3 wide in a battle for 15th spot. And now McClintock is dropping a lot of momentum and speed from this contact, Chris.
Yeah, looks like possibly, yep, the car to his inside may not have known he was there, shoves him up into the wall. He's able to keep it pointed in the right direction, will stay green, but that, oh, and he's in the wall again, going down the back straightaway. But that Coors Light silver bullet looks more like a squashed can.
The driver that got into him, by the way, was Tony Edmondson, who has now led everybody he was just battling with on by and has some right side damage from the contact. As you see it there a little bit on the Folds of Honor machine, he's now side by side with an air driver with some severe right side damage. Adam Sweet, caution flag is out though. McClintock brings it out. So we're under the yellow flag as McClintock had something happen in 1 and 2 on the entry of 1 specifically. I don't know about this one because he was on his very lonesome.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on him as this kind of went down, and I don't know. I don't want to throw any accusations out there, but it almost looks like he may have spun on purpose.
Here's the thing. He just absolutely destroyed the race car. It would have had severe damage with the aerodynamics, even with some of the repairs and potential engine damage from that, but there's still a ways to go. A majority of the field is still running on the lead lap. He is now going to be just the second driver, essentially, to have significant repairs. The other one, Jose Arbos, is now back on the lead lap. Well, Blake Traywick, remember, who was involved in the first caution flag, one of the first wrecks of the day, is only 2 laps down right now. So I don't understand the decision if it was that case. And now he's got a destroyed race car.
Yeah, and looks like the whole field's going to be heading down pit road once again. But yeah, I really don't understand the move, but watching him as the caution happened, I really can't think of any other way that wreck would have happened unless there was some other damage from that hit into the wall that we didn't possibly see.
Trey Wick back to lap down, in fact, as Logan Brakey stays out for the bonus point. Everyone else did duck down to the lane. So we're going to be curious to see what the strategy is here. We had a shorter run this time. First driver out is going to be Corey Blevins. He took 2 tires. A 10-second pit stop for the Heartland machine puts him to the race lead for the first time, potentially, if the drivers in front do come down.
It was a pretty close call there between Fody and Jackson as well as they were exiting the pit lane. Looks like Fody did get out ahead, but it was definitely borderline who was going to exit the pit area first.
And right now, the 2 drivers, again, who stayed out, Logan Brakey, who got the bonus point, Matthew Rodriguez in the Flat Out Racing Network Toyota Camry, who's had a quiet race, was starting in 27th. Also looks like Rodriguez is going to stay out this time by, as expected, Brakey does pit this time around the racetrack here. McClintock, by the way, a DNF, the first, make it second of the night. Rob Peterson, actually a DNS, did not make the start in the 94 machine. So that's going to hurt Peterson's championship hopes, was amongst the drivers looking to make it into the top 10. So just coming to 50 to go this time by only 1 driver. Took 2 tires. Again, that was Blevins. He does have some left side damage, we should know. But again, it was only a couple laps to run. So that is going to make it a bit interesting. What's also going to make it interesting, a couple drivers, I think, might have just tried to shut off their engines in 1 and 2, since it's going to be tight on fuel now.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that point up. Do you think these drivers can make it on fuel if we do go green the rest of the distance?
Even when you think about it, it could be very iffy, I think, honestly. Again, max fuel run on a max tank is about 55 laps or so. These drivers might try and push it again. The full total, it was 75% fuel capacity in this series is 14.02 gallons. So we'll have to see how the drivers play this, especially if this goes green. Rodriguez does come down this time. And we'll have to see how Blevins does again. He is on 2 tires. I'm curious to see how he does here because, again, at some of the mile and a halves, it actually is a benefit if you have a shorter of a run as we did to do this kind of call.
You know, with Rodriguez pitting a little bit later also, you know, that's going to be an extra lap, actually a couple laps under caution that he'll have on the rest of the field as far as fuel goes.
And it looks like Blevins also shows in the outside line, so he'll start alongside Tyler Fody, who's led a majority of the night tonight. Brandon Jackson third, Jalen Banham, Josh Walker inside the top 5, Hunt, Kenny Kruska, Yun, and Jody Banfield round to the top 10. Should note Ty Marasco, remember, was involved in one of the caution flags earlier tonight. He's worked himself up to 12th position now, has gotten most of the nose damage repaired on his Ford Mustang.
That's one thing when we have all these cautions that we've had tonight, plenty of time to hit the pits and work on those cars.
Especially if they keep on happening again and again and again. It essentially will really help you, especially if it's minor damage and you're one of the drivers doing it on every yellow flag stop while you take your service. So now it's going to be curious who is able to find their way to the point to try and use the clean air. Who's going to have a better restart? 2 tires on the right side. On the inside and the left side, it is 4 tires of Fody. Green flag back in the air. Well, 1 car's in the grass. Tony Edmondson spun the tires in 21st. We still keep going, but the top 4 had a blistering start.
So while Edmondson tries to go agricultural racing, we have 4 cars that are very close together trying to battle it out for the lead as Fody now to the inside of Blevins for the top spot as they head off into turn number 3. Brandon Jackson looking for someone to go with. Fody slides up the track a little bit. That's going to break the momentum of Blevins, and Battle gets to the back of Blevins' bumper. Easy enough for me to say. And it's still the top 4 cars 2 by 2 across the line.
Battle looks to fight hard against Blevins. Blevins pushes up. Battle forced to check up as Fody retakes the race lead. Caution flag is back out. It's Todd Slauson who spun around in the 77. And once again, we're under yellow, this time with contact from Alexander Cognac. Take a look at the GSRC replay. You're going to see this coming through 1 and 2, with the run on the driver on the inside cone here, Chris.
Yeah, Cognac makes contact with the Tide ride, sends him around.
That puts him back into the spin cycle once more. Again, we'll take another look here. Against Lawson, it just made the pass on the outside. Then Cognac, it looks like, just straight up pushes right into his door, into his quarter panel rather.
Yeah, it looks like Cognac may have been on the rocks there through the corner and unfortunately slid up the track into Slauson. So, tough break for Slauson, who's had a pretty physical race so far.
So the caution flag is out, and some of the fuel concerns may still be here for some. Who's going to duck in, though, on just a lap and a half stint? Nobody inside about the top 10. Robert Dykemper is the first driver who actually does pit, with Scott Ricard and Adam Sweet amongst the drivers. Everybody else inside the top 11 stayed out.
I mean, I really can't think of a reason not to come down and, at the very least, top off the fuel.
I mean, the race trend has been caution, caution, caution in the past 20, 30 laps or so the longest run was 25 laps. Well, however, with the amount of cautions we had tonight here, Chris, the lucky dog finds himself back in the lead lap since the first yellow flag. Blake Trawick is on the lead lap for the first time in the cow-painted machine since lap 7.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see, you know, with the field that we have and how close they've been, that we have, what, that's going to be now 25, 26 cars on the lead lap?
Yeah, 26 indeed. And should note, you're seeing this on the bottom of the racetrack. Some drivers, it looks like, are trying to save their fuel on the apron. Should note there are a couple ways to save fuel. Some drivers like to clutch and coast. Others can shut off the engine. It's essentially, with the Cup cars, a push start. It's also like that now with the newer Xfinity cars that just came out, with the new build that happened last week, as well as with the trucks. You shut off the engine, and then when you want to get back, turn it back on, you hit the throttle. Your engine turns back on. You have to remember to hit the button, though, essentially, to do so there. So drivers like Jackson are trying to save fuel and trying to hope that it works to make it to the end.
Yeah, Jackson was going pretty bold with that that move under the last caution. He actually was on the apron coasting literally up until the point the pace car pulled off the track.
And again, you never know if you're going to have a long green flag run or if we're going to continue to see yellow flags. So I don't blame Jackson, as well as drivers like Battle here. Essentially, again, it's going to be tight, very tight, on the fuel with the 14 gallons in the tank for everybody. We'll have to see how this works out here. Again, 44 laps to go this time by on the Global SimRacing Channel. Tyler Fode's been controlled for the majority of the race for those just tuning in for the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup. Again, Fode has been looking for some momentum. He has been one of the 6 winners on the season. Won that race at Bristol, specifically. But again, needed to close what was about a 20-30 point gap minimum to get inside the top 10 to make the postseason with 4 races to go entering tonight.
Well, he has definitely made a statement this evening that he is going to be a threat this season. He's ran up front multiple times this year, and luck hasn't always been on his side, but Tyler Fode definitely putting his stamp on this race.
And more drivers saving fuel. Jared Young also trying to save. But give a shout out to Young as well. The Left Turn Motorsports driver has also been having a decent day today. His run inside the top 10 most of the time, has had some bumps and bangs so far. But that Ford Mustang has also shown some decent pace, especially in the first 10-15 laps of a run. You see him in the second car on the bottom line, that time in the apron.
Yeah, and you got to think some of these drivers that are saving fuel now are some of the drivers that have not ran up front for the majority of this event. And you got to think that they might be thinking fuel mileage may be their way to punch their ticket to the front of the field.
And here's the thing, the drivers that came down to pit and or top off on fuel here, Chris, it's about, give or take, amongst the drivers who stayed out here, maybe about a gallon or so. It's the pace cars off the track, and drivers are still trying to save fuel. Fody has elected to take the top side here as the green flag is back out. And that was an interesting way to come to the pace car there as Fody brings them to turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, we had drivers as far up the field as Brandon Jackson, who restarted in third, that didn't rejoin the field until they were coming to the green.
Yeah, Jackson still fighting on the bottom side. Battle tried to cut down a little bit. Couldn't find space as Jackson rim rides across the bumps on the bottom side. Battle, though, gets to the quarter panel, side traps his way. Now side by side for third position with 42 laps to go.
Some of these drivers are starting to look a little desperate, Justin, as we get into the latter stages of this event. Some of these guys are really ramping up the intensity.
Oh, and Jackson nearly tapped into Battle, had to get off the gas. Here comes the 01 machine, looking to put a band-aid on that last restart debacle. This time, though, Jackson much better, 3 and 4. It looks like Walker decides to let him on through as Hunt tries to find a way on by this time.
And how about Corey Blevins on those 2 tires? He's hanging in there so far in the second spot.
And Blevins, half a second slower last time, we should note. The fastest lap of the race again from Tyler Fody. But, again, some drivers have mentioned this at tracks such as Las Vegas with a similar shape. They feel like the car is more looser and more neutral in terms of the balance overall on 2 tires. That might have been the thought process here for Blevins if we go green. One of the drivers to keep an eye on in this grouping, a driver that had some damage early on, is looking to charge up in the top 7, Robert F. Kenny. Just trying to charge for 8th position right behind the Band-Aid machine here. Not able to do anything. Battle also back on for 2nd as diving to the bottom side is Battle as the safe machine gives a lot of space to Blevins.
Well, Blevins, even on those 2 tires, has been able to hang in there as 19 and Jackson looking for somewhere to go with your 2nd and 3rd place cars. A huge run on the outside for Blevins. Battle almost got ran over by Jackson as he took evasive maneuvers to get around on the outside. Now the 01 of Josh Walker trying to follow in his wake to get around the 46 of Battle.
And Jackson trying to get the run much better on the outside, using the banking to touch as a ramp. Battle tries to pinch them up towards the wall with touch. But again, he's been struggling on the bottom side, especially off turn 2 now on this short run. And it's been consistent all night. You're stuck on the bottom on the short run, you get freight train because you have to lift off the throttle to make sure you don't plow into the driver on above you.
How about Billy Kruzka up there in the 6th spot looking to battle with Walker and battle for 4th position as well.
William Kruzka looking to have a strong finish today. Starting inside the top 5 in total, but did get an end of longest line. And now we'll see one driver shuffled out of line. Walker gets a slight door tap, and Walker drops back again.
Well, you could say Walker lost the battle on that one as Jalen Battle moves ahead to take 4th spot, and that's going to allow the 6 of Kruzka to break into the top 5.
And it just looked like Battle pushed up towards Walker. And Walker forced to go up the racetrack. Does get some slight left side damage from the slight contact. But it's now dropped 3-4 spots from that contact. One driver that was the benefactor, though, that again was Rachel Hunt, up to P6. Trying to find a way around Kruzka.
Yeah, Rachel Hunt, one of those drivers that was right up there in that top 3 mix for a good chunk of this event, has faded a little bit in the later stages. but now working her way back up as she tries to find a way around the 6 of Kruzka to break back into the top 5.
And the last time we were at 1.5 miles, by the way, she finished in 4th at Kansas. Was amongst 3 top 10s on the season, or only top 5 in total. Looking to change that statistic tonight. What is looking to be a very interesting finish to this one if the drivers have to try and stretch it here. Again, it looks like this group a little bit north now spread out to from 2nd, 3rd. Blevins and Jackson have pulled away from this pack now, led by Battle, Kruzka, and as mentioned, Hunt.
Yeah, Tyler Fody out front has really extended his advantage as Corey Blevins runs in 2nd, like you mentioned. And still back behind 5th spot. I mean, there's still quite a few cars that are in the mix.
And Blevins doing a great job again on the 2 tires. That time the side draft does reel back in. Battle inside the draft. The Jackson, though, as that lost them 2/10 that time. And Battle picked up so much draft, I think, down the front stretch. He had the fastest lap of the race of that time by with a 31.2. The fall off, by the way, about a full second from drivers' fastest times this evening as they continue to shuffle on here. Now it becomes a question, though, Chris. If we go green the rest of the way, what do you do if you're a lot of these drivers? We've seen a lot of them try and save. Some of them are trying to push now, but others might be on the edge to making it.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to saving fuel, you can't really get it back once you've used it. You had drivers like Jackson that have been saving from really early on in this run, and I think those drivers are definitely going to be a lot more comfortable than somebody like, say, a Tyler Fody that's just seemed to have been hit and go pretty much the whole race.
Here's my concern there with Tyler Fody. We actually seen an example of this in the eMaster Pekin and Freeze iRacing Series event on Tuesday. We've seen Bobby Zelensky pull away in a fuel mileage race. Took off on the short run to about 2 seconds. Then he started saving. Then, when he realized too late, being the lead car with the clean air also means you're burning a lot more fuel in the tank. Blevins also in this type of situation now. As much as a gallon extra you can burn as a lead car in clean air. And guess what? Zelensky lost it, while Blevins gets contact and nearly lost it, but saved it.
And Jackson got into the door on Blevins and got him pretty much all the way sideways. Tremendous save by Corey Blevins to keep it pointed in the right direction and keep it off the wall.
We're going to have to take a look at this. This was going on for a couple laps or so between Jackson and Blevins. And Jackson finally says, enough's enough, tries to pinch him up the line. Blevins not expecting it looked like.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd really place blame on either driver in that instance. I mean, it was kind of a racing deal. Looks like there was one piece of land and 2 drivers trying to stake a claim. Unfortunately, Blevins going to give up a couple spots there, but that does save Brandon Jackson a little bit on trying to battle out with Blevins for the position. And I wonder if we'll see... Oh, caution on the track.
Throw the fuel mileage window out of the picture because Marasco has spun again in his Ford Mustang. Again off of turn 2. This time, though, he ran into the back of a car. That put him in the wall this time.
A tough break for the Valvoline machine.
Yeah, take a look here. This is from Slosson's point of view from the incident. And what caused that was Marasco running to the back of Scott Ricard as Ricard got out of the gas. And Slosson barely avoided running over the back of the Tim Hortons machine just in front of him. That nearly was disaster again for the Tide machine and put him into the disaster cycle, so to speak, for the race. But bright side is everyone can make it from here as everyone dives to the pit lane. The drivers who did come down to try and hope for it come out green, they're going to lose all the track position, though. Die Camper all the way back in 11th. Not getting it to go to green like he was hoping.
Yeah, racing can be a cruel mistress from time to time, and even the best laid plans with the best potential to work out don't always go that way. it looked like it was shaping up to be a pretty decent green flag run. We had a couple little hiccups there that might have made that seem like it wasn't a possibility, but it looked like overall we had a pretty clean run there for quite a few laps.
I have to agree with you. It was some intense racing too, especially again amongst the top 6. But Fody retakes his race lead off the pit lane. Jackson to second. Blevins, Kruska, Jody Banfield round out the top 5 out of the lane. Evan Rice, though, has now moved himself back into the top 6. Mind you, Rice has a completely demolished left side of the car, more so on the rear end than the front.
Well, we saw this last week at Michigan as well, Justin, where we had drivers that were in pretty banged up cars from incidences throughout the event able to make a late charge just solely based off the fact that we had so many cautions that it kind of evened the playing field.
Yeah, and now it's going to be curious to see with 26 to go this time by, expecting to restart with under 25 to go, give or take. It's going to be the question now, can Rice find himself on forward without getting into too much trouble? As the drivers now looking like they're actually going to line up here because the lights are on top of the pace car because there are no drivers left a lap down in the field. Marasco, who's involved in the last yellow flag, has DNF'd your second of the night. McClintock also out of the event. Everybody else is on the lead lap. 25 cars still on the same lap.
Well, looks like that pit cycle didn't work out very great for Jalen Battle. He's a little ways back now in 7th spot. He'll have some cars to pass if he wanted to get back up and try to challenge for the win.
Actually, P8, he's alongside Rachel Hunt in row 4 for the start, but for a lot of drivers, it all came out in the wash, so to speak. And the spin cycle in total also spun on caution precautions. Question is, will we go to the green or will we see another yellow flag? Still a lot of racing to go. 25 to go this time by with Fody in control of the field from Kentucky. Pace car ducks off as they approach the Geico restart zone. Fans up on their feet as Fody hits the gas. Green flag back in the air.
Fody with a pretty good restart. He'll get a few car lengths on the field. But now that everyone's on the same footing behind him, could be interesting to see how this last chunk of the race plays out. Looks like the 24 of Blevins now on the attack on the 19 of Jackson. Wonder if he may have a vendetta to repay.
Meanwhile, Battle clips the apron and nearly in the backdrop there tapped Jody Banfield. So Battle losing a bunch of spots. Well, they now go 3 wide through the tri-oval. Rachel Hunt tries to dive underneath. On the outside, that's Jared Young, who tries to take advantage of the mistake from the points leader.
And don't look now, but Adam Sweet looking to stick his nose back up in the mix as well after he got into the wall earlier on. Your pole sitter looking to break back into the top 10.
See all the shuffling now around Battle as Dicamper tries to dive underneath. Meanwhile, side by side on for third. Blevins on the bottom side, trying to charge hard towards the yellow line while Kruska tries to keep him down in the green and purple machine. Kruska keeps the outside line momentum, move him up to his highest position of the night. Kruska looking like he's going to have a potential strong run. He entered as the cutoff driver with just 1 top 5. Another wreck on the front stretch though. Caution flag is out. Multiple cars spun around including Slauson. And we're under yellow again from Kentucky. And this one, Chris, took a few of the drivers that were in contention just 20-30 laps ago.
Yeah, as you can see, Todd Slauson kind of the centerpiece of this replay here. He ended up, looks like, ooh, hard to tell from that view. Who's that in the middle there that got Slauson, sent him around? Was that Walker?
That was Danny Banfield, actually, and then Walker hit after the check from the 21. And that collects everybody else, it looks like, Chris, into the infield.
Yeah, some top contenders in this series all mixed up in that last caution.
Walker involved, Brad Cross also spun around again from that. Look on board for Jose Arbos. He was in 17th at the time, as this Ford Mustang had a decent look at this one. That was near disaster.
Yeah, things are getting desperate here in the latter stages of this one. Tyler Fode had jumped out to a pretty decent lead there, but only a few laps on the tires, but it looks like we're still going to see people hit pit road.
Ran about 5 laps on the cycle.
Oh, how about that?
Looks like everyone inside the top 10 stays out. Sweet, the first driver to pit, so everybody follows the leader here. As everyone inside, now the top 13, make it 14, will stay out on the racetrack.
So your top runners, they're all engaging in some offbeat shenanigans, falling for the trickery there at Tyler Fode. Looked like they were all going to come down to the pit lane, and at the last second, they all juke to the track and stay out.
And this is a curious call, though, for the drivers who stayed out here, because, again, we just ran only a few laps or so, but the difference on the tires might be pretty substantial. But there's also the chance, though, if we keep on having caution precautions and heat cycles in these tires, that they'll equalize right on back to about even wear.
Yeah, but, I mean, you got to think, if the leaders aren't pitting and you're back outside of the top 10, you're not going to win doing exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. You have to do something different. You can't do the same thing multiple times over and over, expect different results. That time, everyone else in the back, rolling the dice and taking some fresh tires. Tyler Fode still stays out as the race leader, though. Amongst the drivers that took advantage of the track position, by the way, with the drivers trying to pit, Brakey, Cognac, Edmondson amongst them.
Yeah, this is going to add definitely a whole new layer to this event as the laps are winding down.
And again, still waiting to get back to racing. 2 to go on the pace car, it looks like. Again, no one else a lap down. Only 2 DNFs to recap. And so far, we have approached now towards double digits on the evening on the yellow flag ticker. Tyler Fode has been in control of the field much of the night. His fastest lap still 2/10 plus quicker than the rest of the field. He's had a very strong one. Should check myself. It's 1 to go on the restart with the pace car lights now back off. But it's going to be curious to see what does everyone try and do here to find a way around Fode, because Chris, he has been in control since he found the lead early.
Yeah, Fode has been one tough customer here for the duration of this event. But there's a lot of factors in play right now that we still have probably not seen the resolution of.
It's going to be curious who can try and find a way around Fode. A lot of potential strategy with 18 to go. Pace car is off the track. Fode bunches him up this time. Back on the gas he goes. Green flag is out as multiple drivers have forced to jump to the outside for the major jump on the outside. Check on the outside.
He must have heard me talking about what I wanted to see happen on a restart.
And Evan Rice had a few of the drivers, in fact, on the top side, nearly stacked up. Hunt was forced to take to the outside, but had to check up to try not to take the position illegally on that line. But everyone inside the top 6 single file, still near 2-3 wide, everyone else on back.
See, that's Tyler Fode being very much aware of the fact that the leader sets the pace coming down to the restart. So the 19 can't just maintain whatever pace he wants and goes around the 40. He has to follow Fode's lead as they come into the restart zone. Once the green flag's out, all bets are off. But when Fode sets the pace, Fode knows exactly when he's going to take off. And everyone else has to follow his lead. So in that instance, he catches the field napping and is able to jump out to a huge lead on that last restart.
Yeah, that time by, he was actually nearly a full 10th.5 quicker than the rest of the field in the clean air. Fody looking very strong right now. Meanwhile, Kruzka, you've been following along with him for the past couple laps. He has now lost a few spots. He tried to go for second, now is trying to have to defend with Dijkemper diving to his inside for P number 5. Able to defend though in the 6 machine. So a loss of 2 or 3 spots in total for Kruzka on that restart.
So I'm just very much in love with the way that the strategy's playing out in this race. You know, we've mentioned before the advantage of the leader having the clean air, and even the challenges that may cause as far as fuel mileage. But the strategy involved in getting to the lead, and then not only holding the lead, but managing the lead, which is a whole different beast. It's something that you don't really see too much on these mile-and-a-half tracks, I feel like, because, you know, with this draft package, like we've talked about, a lot of it's out of the leader's hands. But I am just absolutely thrilled to see this type of race management as we have a caution on the track.
And it looks like it's down the backstretch this time. And this time it's Cognac. So Cognac has killed the front bumper on his Ford Mustang. He'll take it to the garage after this one. And again, it was down the backstretch, as you'll see on the GSRC replay.
Yeah, as you can see, a spill for Cognac as he gets into the inside wall going around. Tough break for the discount tire machine.
It's been a rough race overall, though. To be honest, though, for Cognac, has had a couple incidents here and there. Again, one play we're talking about destroying one of the caution flags, went off in the grass and parked it there, lost 3 spots early in the day. And this time, his day looks to be all but done, with just a few laps to go on the ticker. 12 to go this time. Who comes down this time? Leader says no thank you, but 4th on back come down. A couple others stay out, but this could be a major strategy call. Everybody else comes down the lane.
So even more laps on those tires for Fody and Jackson and those guys up front. And now that buffer zone that they had between the cars on fresh tires, that's going to be significantly reduced.
And here's the thing. Fody, when you calculate all the green flag laps ran, it's now approaching nearly 10 in total, give or take. It's going to be risky for now the top 7, I believe, who has stayed out on this caution flag. Everybody else taking 4 tires, first of which, Adam Sweet. And I was about to mention Sweet, in fact, because, again, he had some right side damage early on from hitting the fence through 3 and 4. He was charging through the field on just 4 lap tires advantage. Now, he's the first driver on fresh tires of the guys who just came down.
And, I mean, he hasn't been up there for a little bit, but you got to remember, Adam Sweet in the early parts of this race was one of the fastest cars out there. He got into the wall, he's faded back, but now he not only has a tire advantage, but with the repairs done to that car, he may not be the fastest car on the track, but he's definitely not going to be a slouch.
And right now, the main thing is, though, and I'm going to ask your opinion on this. Again, the drivers who stayed out, this is a bit of a risky call with the amount of laps ran on the green. It's not too many, yes. But it's still a bit of a difference on the short run. What do you think's the call here for these drivers in the lead group who stayed out? Because 8th on back again on fresh rubber.
At this point, it's got to be just hammer down and hope for the best. He had to believe that no matter what Fody did, there was going to be a group of people that were going to do the opposite. Had he pit, you got to imagine a bunch of people were going to stay out, especially those that had pitted under the last caution. So he was in a lose-lose situation no matter what. But I'm kind of surprised as many people stuck with him as they did. But Adam Sweet's definitely going to be the guy to keep your eyes on. And I'm really excited to see how these final 10 laps or so play out.
Cognac still in the pit lane, technically trying to get repairs. But with the amount of damage potential in the car, there's the chance he might be the third DNF. Again, there's still time, potentially, if there's a few caution flags, depending on how much required damage repair to be done. But 10 laps to go this time by. Pace car drops its way down to the pit lane. Will Tyler Fody be able to hold off the steaming pack of cars behind? He's back onto the loud pedal. Green flag racing once more at Kentucky.
It looked like that second row had a near miss as Jody Banfield kind of swerved the car a little bit, almost got into the 37 of Robert Dykemper on that start. So those two cars a little bit off kilter on that restart.
Yeah, a lot of wheel spin, in fact. That's something we haven't talked about too much because of how many drivers have taken fresh rubber on a majority of the stops today. That's something to now watch if we have another restart. But the drivers coming to 9 laps to go. Keep an eye on Sweet. He's the first driver on fresh tires. He is up to 7th and looking to try and attack Danny Banfield from the outside line. While drivers push up in front of him and make contact. Dykemper making contact with Jody Banfield, while Sweet gains 2 spots down the backstretch.
Adam Sweet definitely taking advantage of that fresh rubber as he's gotten past, what, 3 or 4 cars almost since that last restart. He now works on your points leader, Jalen Battle. Battle holding him off so far, doing a great job running a very aggressive line. He's now going to open the door for Kruska and Banfield. And we're 3 wide.
And Sweet might have to play this smart here. Battle trying hard to keep the top line on the older rubber. Sweet can't get to the outside, trying to take the very long way around. All the way up towards the marbles, in fact, can't make anything work. Lots of others who have stayed out already have been cycled towards the back end of the top 10 or all the way to the back of the field. So a lot of drivers who stayed out, their strategy not working. But Tyler Fody, as this is gone on, and the drivers on fresh tires are still in traffic, has still put away just 7/10 of a second as they still fight.
Yeah, I think Adam Sweet's going to have to work his way around a couple more cars here and hope for a caution to reel Fody back in.
One car up into the fence. One of the Banfields. It's the 21 machine of Banfield. Danny Banfield brings the caution flag back out and throw everything out the window. It was amongst a near 3 wide battle, in fact 3 wide, and contact with the quarter panel of Bryce.
Following along on the GSRC replay here. And yeah, looks like Royce slid up the track and ended up knocking Banfield up out of his groove and then unfortunately into the wall. And as he came back down the track, collected a few other drivers.
Yeah, the 06 that we've seen to stay out a few times to lead some laps, and Wells involved in that one, as well as 1 or 2 others. But this might be a saving grace for some of the drivers at the front. Take that back, they're staying out. Jody Banfield and a couple others are pitting for fresh rubber, but the leaders who are essentially now stuck on this potential strategy going to be forced to stay out here with just under 5 to go.
Yeah, this is kind of a live by the sword, die by the sword type of moment for your top 4 runners. At this point, they've committed to this strategy, and I think they're pretty much stuck with it. I mean, you only have a few laps left. So at this point, you got to hope that the 80 car cannot have enough time to get up there by the time we get this race restarted.
And here's the curious thing, is when it can start. We're looking at an estimation of either 3 or 2 to go, depending on how it is taken care of here. We'll have to see. Again, though, none of the lap cars that are currently on the upper ticker, or the left side ticker, rather, I should say, are on the racetrack, so there is the strong chance there is a 3-lap shootout here. We'll have to wait and see, though. Pace car still has its lights on for the time being. Again, Fody gonna have a tough situation because Sweet got up to 5th. He'll be on the bottom line, row 3, for this upcoming restart.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of real estate between Fody and Sweet when we come down to this last restart. And we have a lot of pretty worn tires at this point. I wonder if maybe some wheel spin on the restarts might be something we consider.
And we've seen that majorly last time. It's going to be a 2-lap shootout, in fact, as the pace lights do, in fact, stay out, it looks on, in fact. So 2-lap shootout. There is green-white checkers in this series. So that is something to watch for as well if we get a quick yellow here. Should note again, all the drivers inside the top 3 essentially are on the same tire cycle. Dykemper in 4th position on old tires, Sweet in 5th. Battle on old tires in 6th. We've seen a major amount of wheel spin last time. It's an art to make sure you don't do it this time, though, because this is the money restart potentially tonight.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the one that decides the race more or less. Even if we see another green-white checker finish to this one, I still think this restart's going to set everything up.
Should know, pardon me, it looks like Kruzka double check this on potentially some 8-lap old tires we're hearing. So that would be technically same as Sweet if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah, I don't know if we maybe lost Kruzka on that last restart, but if he's up there in 3rd on the same tire cycle as Sweet, there is potential for Kruzka to get up there as well and take this win away. But, you know, Tyler Fode has been pretty much the man to beat all night. And if he's able to pull off one of those restarts with just a couple laps left, then they may not have time to catch him by the time they are able to take advantage of those fresher tires.
Just want to double check that. In fact, it is indeed correct. Had pit on lap 107 with guys like Sweet. If I'm looking at this right here, the first initial time. And had pit as well on lap 115. So yes, put Kruzka in some of the fresher tire categories here. Bottom line, row 2. That adds even more potential stress for the lead cars. Fode has chose the outside line. 1 to go this time by Chris.
A lot of different layers to this stress for Fode. It's like some kind of weird stress onion. But Fode looks like he's going to choose the outside line on this start as well. Maybe he's hoping that not only can he pull away, but having Jackson on the inside possibly not catching the restart in time might back up that inside line and potentially hold back Sweet and Kruzka.
Here's the thing, there's just 2 laps to go. Who's gonna make it around? 3 laps to go from the Kentucky. Green flag back up in the air. We're racing once more. Fode with a good start on the high side. Jackson gets going decently on the bottom side as Kruzka tries to find a way to catch up along with Sweet.
Well, Fode probably not getting as far ahead as he had wanted. The plan worked out pretty well for Jackson to hold back the drivers on fresher tires as Kruzka runs in 3rd. Kruzka now to the inside of Jackson for the 2nd spot.
Side by side for 2nd, put Kruzka to 2nd spot. White flag up in the air. This race is official. 1.5 miles left to go. Who will take round 7 of the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series? Fode rides about 3-4 car lengths ahead, but Kruzka closing in quickly. 2/10 quicker last time by.
Kruzka inching closer as they head down the back straightaway into tricky turn number 3. Kruzka sailing off towards the bottom of the track. Fode right there as well. Kruzka's going to get to him as they come off of turn 4.
Side by side, who's going to take the checker flag? Fode high, Kruzka low, checker flag. Tyler Fode wins his 2nd race of the season. Our first multi-time winner of Season 2 in the organization's history. Tyler Fode holds on the old tires. Kruzka 2nd, Jackson, Dykemper, Sweet rounds out the top 5 in a crazy finish.
Take a look at this finish as they come down to the line. Kruzka giving it all he has on the fresher tires. Probably needed just maybe another 100 feet or so. He might have had something to say about it. But unfortunately, 0.54 seconds the margin as Tyler Fode picks up his 2nd win of the season.
0.054 to be precise, as Tyler Fode, the fastest driver much of the night, holds on despite a massive difference in tire length on the racetrack. And it was close too. Kruska, if he had one more corner, might have gotten him. In fact, Kruska, you've seen a bit on that replay, had nearly clipped the grass trying to get to the apron.
Yeah, Kruska gave it all he had to try to get around Foti, but unfortunately did not have enough time.
With that, we'll take a break after an interesting finish to round 7 of tonight's action for the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series. We'll take a break. We'll be back after this. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel from Kentucky. Welcome back, everyone, to beautiful Kentucky Speedway for post-race coverage of the Sim Racers for Mental Health Cup Series after a thrilling finish here for round number 7. It was a photo finish to the checker flag, but old tires beat new tires in a 2-lap shootout. Tyler Foti, the fastest driver most of the night, led a majority of the evening, took the win by just 5/100ths of a second. William Kruska on newer tires finished in second, with Brandon Jackson, who started in 21st spot, using some strategy early to find his way up towards the front and stayed there with a top 3 finish. We'll talk to those top 3 in just a few moments here on GSRC. Robert Dykamper finished off in 4th with Adam Sweet rounding up the top 5. Sweet had been an early contender in this one before smacking the wall in turn 3 and 4, and charging back up the field length. Evan Rice came away with 6th, with the points leader Jalen Battle with a decent run in 7th. Corey Blevins finishing 8th with Jared Young in 9th. Rachel Hunt, amongst the drivers 3-4 wide in the back half of the top 10, came away in P10.
Logan Brakey made the charge from 19th to finish 11th on the finishing order, with Josh Walker coming home in 12th after spending some time up towards the front of the field. Jose Arbos had a rough race. He still managed to finish in lucky number 13th position, with Jody Banfield hanging on for 14th. 15th was Tony Edmondson after a physical race for him, as well as Robert Kenny in 16th. Taco Soup Jack Wells, who led a lap earlier in the event, came home 17th, with Brad Cross, the Tide Ride of Todd Slauson, and Matthew Rodriguez completing your top 20.
And the rest of the drivers finishing 21st on back was O'Hare with a rough run inside the top 5 in points entering this evening. 21st on the checker flag. Danny Banfield was up as high as the top 10 before that incident we've seen that brought out the 2-lap run to the finish. 22nd is his finishing position. Scott Ricard in 23rd. Blake Trawick, he was as much as 5 laps down this evening, was able to get all his laps back, came away in 24th. Rest of the field DNF did not start. Alexander Cognac in 25th. Ty Marasco 28 laps down in 26th. Jeffrey McClintock 27th, 54 laps down. Rob Peterson did not make the start. So that's a look at your full race unofficial results from Kentucky Speedway, as it was a heck of a battle to the checker flag this evening. The man who took the win, our first multi-time winner of Season 2 in 2019, it's Tyler Foti. Tyler, heck of a drive leading the majority of the night tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a good race.
talk us through how you're feeling here tonight, because you were dominant from the get-go. As soon as you took the lead, you were pulling as much as 2-3 tenths a lap in each and every run this race.
Yeah, no, I was a little shocked with how big the gaps were getting, but I knew coming into it was going to be about track position with how the tires were wearing. So qualifying second wasn't too bad, and then just making a move for the lead and holding it seemed to work out.
Of course, you were in clean air majority of the night, had some dirty air times here and there. What's your opinion on the significance of the clean air and having that most of the race compared to much of your competitors that were stuck in side-by-side battles or dirty air most of the runs tonight?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big advantage there. A couple of my teammates there in the back were talking about how rough it was, so I was trying to stay out in front as long as I could there. And
of course, we can't go without asking about the strategy at the end of the race. You stayed out a couple times. Old tires, in fact, very old tires. You just held off Kruska, who was at the time of the restart on just 8-lap-old tires. First of all, what was the strategy to staying out? And second, the difficulty of trying to hold on to that checker flag.
Yeah, at that point in the race, it's basically they're going to do whatever I'm not. And the last thing I was going to do was go back into traffic, so I was pretty much set on staying out the whole time. It was just a matter of who else was going to stay with me. I was pretty happy to see about 5-6 cars, I think, back there with me. And I knew Kruska was going to be coming as the laps were coming down there. And it got pretty close. Definitely would have had me if it was another lap or so.
Next race on the schedule goes to the Brickyard at Indianapolis. 60 laps is the distance, followed by Richmond, Talladega to wrap up the regular season. This is a finish you were kind of needing with the point standings. You were 16th entering tonight. Your opinion on the final few races coming up before we head off to the postseason. Top 12 overall, once again, make it to the postseason, pardon me.
Yeah, Indy and Talladega are going to be toss-ups. I haven't run Indy, and Dega being the super speedway it is, it could be anyone's race, but I'm pretty comfortable with the short track, so I think Richmond will be another strong run. Just trying to get into the top 12 here.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go here tonight for being a part of your dominant run this evening?
Yeah, I got to thank my teammates, Tony Edmondson and Alex Cognac, for practicing earlier on in the week, getting everything dialed in. So thanks to them. I know I got a couple of family and friends out there too watching, so shout out to them for watching. And yeah, hopefully keep the momentum up.
Thank you very much for the time, Tyler. Congratulations on being the first multi-time winner in the Cup Series this season.
Thank you.
Once again, Tyler Fody started outside front row, came away with the checker flag, was the fastest car much of the race, but the driver who was charging hard and fast to the checker flag, and a thrilling finish at the stripe. William Kruska standing by with Chris Foby.
Well, Bill, tremendous run for you today. Came up just a little bit short, but it looked like that last 2-lap shootout looked like a whole lot of fun.
Right, there we go. Yeah, sorry. Had to fix some settings. What was that?
Said it looked like those last 2 laps looked pretty fun there with the fresher tires. Tell us about your last couple laps in that very last race.
Oh, it was fun. That was probably one of the most fun I've ever had in a really long time in iRacing. I really didn't think I was going to be able to get to Tyler that quickly, but I guess new tires really did help us there.
Now, you had kind of an adventurous race. I mean, you were right there in the thick of things throughout the event. What'd you think of the driving out there, and how hard was it to make that choice to pit when you did towards?
Surprisingly, it was really tight, but I'm surprised I was able to hold on to that. But it was surprisingly really tight the whole time. I was hoping during the nighttime I'd get at least a little bit more freer, at least to make the car more easier to drive. But other than that, it just stayed the same, just tight all the way around.
Now, do you think one more lap you could have had him?
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't even need one more lap. Give me like one more corner, probably would have had him.
All right, now there's still quite a few unique facilities left on the schedule this season. Anyone in particular that piques your interest?
Uh, what is it? Indy, Dega, and Richmond.
Indy, Richmond,
Yes.
Dega.
I don't know, to be honest. I'm kind of all favorites of them, to be honest, especially Richmond and Dega. Just Dega being, anything can happen, any lap, any turn. But I'm pretty excited for the next three.
Now I know the series kind of has a special message behind it that's pretty close to your heart. Any comments you want to make on that here in the closing moments of the interview?
Yeah, we pretty much, we do monthly events and such to raise awareness for all sorts of awareness events. Got to thank everyone that joins it. Got to thank Shine MSD for coming on board, doing a couple of races too. They've been a pretty awesome sponsor for us too.
All right, well, that's your runner-up finisher tonight, William Kruzka, coming home in second, and I believe, Justin, you are catching up with our third-place run.
Yes, indeed, and I'm glad you asked that last question to William about the message of the organization for Sim Racers for Mental Health. But the man who came away in third tonight, Brandon Jackson, started in 21st, and once he got to the front, he was one of the fastest cars. Brandon, first of all, how difficult was it to try and claw your way into position, whether through strategy or passing, to be inside the top three?
It was a challenge, just plain down. It was just straight up track position all night, especially while the sun was still out. You just couldn't pass. If you did, you had to wait for the guy to make a mistake, or you just had to nail the corner. I did play a little bit of strategy, not much, but just kind of waited for my time. Just kind of got a feel for the car, and once the lights came on and the sun went away, kind of got a good feel for the car. And once I got to the front, I was just like, I gotta stay up here. It's too late now to even want to get tires, especially at the end of the race.
I was about to ask, as that was all shaping up, what was going through your head a little bit with that, because there were a lot of drivers trying to charge up to the field in fresh tires. You stayed away from a lot of the drivers trying to charge up, but it was a hornet's nest just a couple rows behind you.
Yeah, it was pretty big. It was pretty scary. The last couple of restarts, when I checked and see where those guys pitted, where they came out, they were only like 8th or 7th. And I figured, I was like, they're going to get up here if we go green. So kind of was just trying to stay right on Tyler's bumper. On the restarts, he just nailed him every single time. I just was just trying to run my lines, just try to run consistent. Once I seen Cruz could get up there, I was just like, I either fight him and probably lose 3 spots more, or just try to battle him off the corner and see what happens. So I'm guessing I should have just came in the pit tires when everybody else did. Probably would have ended out better. Maybe I would have got my first win. I don't know. Just can't win one of these races.
Thing is, though, I've seen how you've driven the past couple races. I wouldn't be surprised to see you eventually make it to victory lane. One of the tracks that I'm curious to see how you perform, though, is the next one. It's at the Brickyard. It's a double points race, in fact. Looking at the schedule, in fact, right now, 60 laps on September the 18th. Your thoughts on Indianapolis?
Indy has actually been one of my stronger tracks. Old package and new package. It's still going to be maybe like the first like quick short runs is going to be really jam packed together. Guys maybe going to be throwing some blocks that they probably shouldn't. So got to get a feel for everybody and see how it goes. I'm just that kind of guy. He kind of rides in the back the first half of the race, or even less. Just get a feel for how the track is, how the car is feeling, and then I just start to work my way up through the front. And I've learned everything I've learned doing that way and getting up to the front. So I like Indy. Hopefully it'll be good to me. So who knows? Maybe you'll see me qualify.
Maybe we will. We'll have to wait and see. But is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your top 3 finish tonight in your Ford Mustang?
Got to thank my team, Evo Sim, a good group of guys. I really like them. Other than that, congrats to Tyler. Good job, William, with the strategy call, and thank you for you guys for putting on a good show.
And thank you for having a good run. Congratulations as well, I should rather say, for having a good run, Brandon.
Appreciate it. Maybe I'll just get a win. I don't know. That's like 5 top 5s for me. I just can't win.
Brandon Jackson looking to win next time out at the Brickyard. We'd like to once again thank our top three, and Tyler Fody, William Kruzka, Brandon Jackson, for being able to speak with us before the end of this one. But next race, as mentioned at Indianapolis, next broadcasted on the Global SimRacing Channel, is the cutoff race to make it to the postseason at Talladega. That is on October the 2nd. But as we head towards the final 3 rounds here, Chris, the races until then, again, Indy, Richmond, 2 very different tracks. Your thoughts on what's needed to be done for some of these drivers to put themselves in a good position for the wild card of the year?
Well, they say variety is the spice of life, and this series has taken that to heart with the way they organize their schedule. 2 pretty much opposite ends of the spectrum, with the short track at Richmond and the Indianapolis track that we're all so familiar with. It's going to take 2 very different approaches to make those work, but I think for the sake of the playoffs, you're going to want to be in a pretty solid position before you get to Talladega, because anything can happen there.
Again, the next broadcasted race on the Global SimRacing Channel, the cutoff race, where the top 12 overall in the standings will make it to the chase for Season 2 of Sim Racers for Mental Health races and for the Cup Series this year. Again, until then, it's time to say goodbye. But until then, we would like to thank William Kruzka and the Sim Racers for Mental Health for organizing what has been an interesting season so far and what was a thrilling race finish involving William. We'd also like to thank the companies providing our software and hardware for our broadcast listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides our wonderful music as well. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team again today of Chris and Joe Peak. If you'd like to find out more about the Global SimRacing Channel, including the upcoming races on the schedule, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel in one word, or Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to the YouTube page as well. Hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Once again, as mentioned, the next race broadcast on the channel for the Cup Series is at Talladega, 54 laps. It's going to be white knuckle time for some of the drivers to make it to the postseason. Who will make it in? Find out on October the 2nd. We also have many other upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.